A lot has already been said about the Hindenburg research report on the Adani Group. But for those of you who think that the only repercussions the Adani Group will face is a decline in its share price and that they're too big to investigate or take any serious action against, you're wrong. See, a revelation of this magnitude has far-reaching impacts. SEBI and other investigative agencies have to take action. The reputation of the Indian stock market is at stake here. If they don't, foreign institutional investors or FIIs won't take India seriously, and we might see them pulling their money out of India pretty soon. Our new SEBI chief, Ms. Madhabi Puri Butch, in fact, summoned Mr. Gautam Adani twice in October last year. Of course, at that time, we could only wonder why. But she's known to be a tough taskmaster who's taken investor protection pretty seriously since she was appointed as SEBI chairperson in Feb of 2022. And even institutions seem to have lost faith and are selling their Adani shares in the last few days. How do I know this? Because who else will sell his shares? One of the accusations is that most of his shares are controlled by his group only. Barely any retail investor hold his shares. So the only others who can possibly sell any meaningful amount are domestic institutions like LIC and banks. So join me for today's video where I take you through what I find to be the most interesting parts of this report, what its possible implications might be, and what I find suspicious about it. And guys, if you enjoy such videos, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more such financial content. First, let's start off with the credibility of the report even before we get into its scathing details. Hindenburg Research is a US-based investment research and shareholder activism firm that specializes in forensic financial research. You know, the kind that combines accounting with investigation and mostly identifies criminal financial activity. The group has exposed quite a few financial scandals in the US, which has led to big firms winding up their operations or getting delisted from the stock market as well. In the case of the Adani expose, the Hindenburg Group said the findings of their 140-page report was based on a 2-year-long investigation, and they spoke with dozens of individuals, including former senior executives of the Adani Group. They reviewed thousands of documents, which includes downloading the entire Mauritius corporate registry where Adani is suspected of having shell companies, and they even conducted site visits in almost half-dozen countries. But perhaps the ultimate endorsement of the report came through a tweet by billionaire investor Bill Ackman, who said it was highly credible and extremely well researched. So that being said, let's get into the bits that I find to be the most intriguing. A laundry list of allegations were made, including stock price manipulation, accounting fraud, corruption, money laundering, tax evasion, setting up of dummy accounts, and many more. But I'm going to discuss the 5 most interesting points. Let's get straight into it. Number 1 is what the Hindenburg research claims as brazen stock price manipulation, in which they say that the share price of 7 key listed companies of the Adani Group have spiked 819% in the last 3 years, which has catapulted Mr. Gautam Adani's personal wealth and made him the 3rd richest man in the world. They say that a majority of all shares held in Adani Group firms, more than 75% in most of the companies, are controlled by the group itself. Firstly, that in itself is against SEBI rules and they should be delisted from the stock market. But to hide that fact, the Adani Group has set up dummy companies in offshore locations, and these dummy companies own a good portion of those shares. So when you control so much shareholding in a company, it's easy to create artificial demand for those shares and pump up its prices, which is exactly what has led to the inflated prices of the Adani Group stocks. And then they have pledged their shares, which now have inflated prices, to get big loans from banks. So it's basically a house of cards waiting to fall apart. So alleges the Hindenburg report. Number 2 is the accounting fraud that the Hindenburg Group alleges. They listed one particular transaction where Adani Enterprises, the flagship company of the Adani Group, didn't want to show a big loss in its book. So to hide this, they transferred the loss-making asset from their balance sheet through one of their subsidiary companies to a private company controlled by them. They then declared the loss in this private company. But no one is going to notice a loss in a private company as opposed to Adani Enterprises, which is listed on the stock market and whose every transaction needs to be disclosed to the public. Number 3 is the people they hire to authorize their accounts, their auditors. The auditor of the two biggest Adani firms, Adani Enterprises and Adani Gas, is a tiny firm called Shah Dhandheria, which doesn't even have a website. This audit firm has 4 partners with 11 employees and pays just 32,000 rupees as monthly rent for their office. Further, their partners who actually signed the financial statements were as young as 23 and 24 years old when they began approving these audits. And mind you, we're talking about companies that have lakhs of employees, do thousands of crores worth of business all over the world. I have also personally done many audits when I was a chartered accountant, and I know exactly how much time, effort and manpower it takes for big and small firms. Number 4 are the crimes his immediate family members have committed and the outright shady people they're associated with. For instance, Gautam Adani's younger brother, Rajesh Adani, who was arrested twice for forgery and tax fraud, and his brother-in-law Samir Vora were both involved in a diamond trading scam involving offshore dummy companies used to generate artificial turnover. Basically the same thing Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi are accused of. They both now hold leadership positions in Adani Group. Then Mr. Gautam Adani's elder brother, Vinod Adani, manages a network of offshore dummy companies in Cyprus, UAE, Singapore and several Caribbean islands which have no signs of operations. No employees, no websites, no addresses, no phone numbers, no nothing. Then they have also found links between the Adani family and Dharmesh Doshi, a fugitive accountant who has worked very closely with the ultimate stock market manipulator of probably all time in India, Ketan Parekh. And SEBI in the past has even charged promoters of the Adani Group of artificially manipulating their share prices with Ketan Parekh's help. Vinod Adani's daughter is said to be married to the son of a fugitive diamond merchant. Number 5 is the money laundering the Adani Group has done over the years through the very same network of dummy companies mentioned. They have moved billions of dollars in and out of their listed companies without disclosing it to the authorities. They have also moved money from private companies onto the balance sheet of their listed companies to maintain an appearance of financial health and solvency. The way they do it, they move money from offshore dummy companies to their private companies in India, so it's relatively undetected, and then their private companies transfer the money to their listed companies in India. So these were some of the major allegations, and there are more of course. And at the end, the Hindenburg report says they have included 88 questions which they would like Mr. Gautam Adani to address, which actually should be easy for him if he is as transparent as he claims. But all this aside, just to present you both sides of the story, the Hindenburg Group, after making this report public, said that they now hold short positions in the Adani Group, which basically means they will make money if Adani shares go down. Now, I think this is a bit of a conflict of interest here. If they're genuinely an organization that stands for shareholder activism, why are they looking to make money off such a revelation? Such campaigns are actually disruptive for companies, and probably the right way to do it, if you're genuinely concerned about the well-being of the company, is to positively engage with the management and work towards bringing about a change. Short sellers are generally not held in high regard by stock markets world over, and are in fact investigated quite a bit for their motives, because their objectives are contradictory to the interest of investors, as they make money when shares go down. And also, the timing of the report can be questioned. Was it intentionally released on the day when Adani Enterprises was looking to raise money through a follow-on public offer, which just happened to be the biggest in Indian history at 20,000 crores? Obviously, if this FPO flopped, the sentiment of the investors would become much more negative than just any other day if this report came out, which would lead to an even bigger fall in Adani shares. and more profit for short sellers. While there have been other exposés as well in the past, like that of India Bulls in 2019, when BJP leader Subramaniam Swamy accused them of misappropriating funds worth 1 lakh crores, and DHFL, which was exposed in a sting operation again in 2019 for defrauding investors worth 31,000 crores. This Adani fraud, if proven, will definitely be the most damaging. And not only because of the sheer size of it, but because of the contagion effect it may have on banks and other financial institutions such as LIC, who have bet big on the India's infrastructure story via its most famous poster boy, Mr. Gautam Adani. Thank you.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.